and welcome to the Phuket News TV for Phuket News in Review. This is Simon Ostheimer, once again, the Managing Editor of the Phuket News, which is out now at all good stores for 20 baht. Now, this week we start with They Have Guns. All this debacle in Central. Yeah,
that's a grabbing headline. So it's to do with basically the black taxis, the illegal taxis based outside of Central Festival. And there was a meeting held this week involving the DSI, Central Festival Management, and also representatives of the local taxi organisations, and to see what they can do about this. They basically want to have just legal taxis. Obviously they get a lot of tourists there, so it's a matter of importance to them. During the meeting, where reporters were invited to attend, came out, the manager of Central Festival said they have guns.
Does that put him in a vulnerable position, coming out and speaking to media and the police?
Perhaps in some ways, but you have to imagine he's done it with the full backing of the company that he works for, which is one of the largest in Thailand, and also with the DSI's support. And I think it just shows they're serious about tackling the issue.
Do you think with the bigger presence of DSI on the island that more people are kind of speaking up about issues?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of these things that are now coming out that are perhaps been buried before or not really talked about, and having the presence of the DSI and their support means people are more willing to bring out these major issues. So it's good. Hopefully it's all going to be positive.
Yeah, right. So what's happening with the situation now?
What's negotiations ongoing between, say, the taxi organisations and Central. Their aim is they want to have 100% legal taxis outside. Currently, I think only something like 1 in 4 is actually legal.
Right.
So they want to have them organised and registered. So it's something we'll be following up on, but right now talks are ongoing.
How long has it been going on? Illegal cabs at Central?
I think it's the same as across Phuket as a whole, since the tourists started arriving.
Right.
But finally, like we saw at the airport, where they made all of the taxis up there register, it's the same thing now seems to be happening across the island, so it's finally being addressed.
Okay. And on page 3 of the Phuket News this week, a bit of sad news. We've got an artist, Mama Farka.
Yeah, careful how you say that.
Yes, who passed away this week. This should highlight the dangers of surf in Phuket.
Yeah, surfing and swimming, just the waters in general. But yeah, he's a celebrated graphic artist.
Yeah.
Very, very, very cool guy. And sadly died of a tragic surfing accident. And we hear about these kind of stories all of the time. And often it's an unnamed tourist, gets into trouble with the rips, and people, although it looks beautiful from the beach, they don't realise how dangerous the water can be, and maybe go in there overconfident. Unconfirmed reports say that he actually wasn't a very strong swimmer, but it could happen to anybody.
Yeah, right, and he'll be sadly missed by many.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about the road rage incident last week as well, and obviously you've got an article in the paper this week about the guy saying he didn't mean to kill anyone, he just wanted to scare them off.
Well, the headline says it all, Face of Fury, and this actually was a contender for the front page of the story. But the case of the Russian man who was shot when he was in the back of the car, and it was a bit of a road rage incident, like you say, between some guys on a bike and then these Russians in the car. Well, they arrested him, they found him, and he's basically said no intention to kill, just wanted to scare them off, and basically was just angry and had a gun. Yeah,
right. He said the driver of the car flashed his lights and pressed a horn, so he thought they were trying to get him off the motorcycle, sort of thing.
But I mean, it's something we hear about an awful lot in Phuket, that people have very quick tempers, and unfortunately there is access to handguns, which are legal in Thailand. You can own one and have it registered, but that's kind of a lethal combination. Do you know how many firearms are on Phuket? I couldn't hazard a guess, but there are lots. Okay, so when we turn to page 7 this week, we've got 2 arrested in Jetski checks. Are they happening more regularly on the island? Yeah, no, it seems to be the case. This is the Marine Police, basically went down to Patong to check out the local jet ski operators and check things as like they have the proper license to do that the jet ski itself is properly registered, all the paperwork is up to date, and they found many sort of discrepancies when they were there, and 2 were arrested in these checks. So this is by the Marine Police and not by the DSI, but like we were just saying about the fact that the DSI are on the island and they're addressing all these things, it kind of seems to have like a knock-on effect to incidents like this. Right, okay. And if we go to life,
we've got a really interesting article here with Jody Halton, and he's interviewed Paul Brock. Now, he's a resident in Bali.
Yep. And Phuket.
And Phuket.
Yeah, divides his time between the two.
Okay, and he's a bit of a fashion icon.
Yeah, people may have seen his stores around the island. He has multiple outlets here.
16, I believe, in Thailand.
Yep. Very sort of cool clothes that he puts together, very sort of influenced by Indian and tribal designs. But yeah, Jody sat down with him for an interview and talk about like his background, where he came from, and interestingly, he made his fortune from rolling papers. And he'd always asked himself, rolling papers, why are they just white? Why has no one put a pattern on it? And the answer, no one had ever thought of it. So he put the stars and stripes, the US flag, on the rolling paper.
Which is illegal.
And illegal to manufacture them. So he had to make them in Italy to get around the law, and it made him millions. And that was his first start.
He said it was quite controversial.
Very controversial, yeah, at the time. Back in the 60s, you can imagine.
Yeah, right.
Spirit of revolution and all of that. And then from there, we kind of talked more with him about where his path took him, including about a decade spent on a beach in Goa. Yeah, right.
It was a really interesting read, and it's amazing how he sold 13 million stars and stripes.
Yes.
Rolling papers as well. Wow. So that is in page 3 of Life, this week's edition of the Phuket News. Now we're going to Pancakes of Patong. I believe her name is Rin from Tang.
Yeah, from Trang province. So this is Ramon, one of our reporters, and doing like a regular series of street eats, we call it, where we look at a local delicacy, something that maybe tourists eat or locals eat, and give a bit more of a story behind it and the people that sell it. So in this case, we've looked at the pancake sellers of Patong. So everybody's seen them, probably bought something from them, banana, Nutella, what have you, but probably don't know much about the person that sold it to them. So yeah, we sent out a reporter to have a chat with one of them. It's quite fascinating reading.
Nice, and that's one of those in the dining section every week.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and page, last but not least, Logging On to the Past, written by Claire Connell. What's she been doing here? This is
she's been on holiday up to Chiang Mai.
Yeah.
And she went on this fascinating sort of historical tour of this house called Borneo House, and also the surrounding area. But basically, it was one of the first sort of colonial-style buildings built in Chiang Mai, and it was founded as the headquarters for a logging empire in the north. A lot of sort of technical information in this story, but if you're interested in history, in travel, it's a great read.
Oh, great. All right, well, thanks for joining us once again, Simon Ostheimer, Managing Editor of the Phuket News.
Thanks for having me, Kirsty.
No worries. And make sure you pick up a copy of the Phuket News, 20 baht, at over 600 outlets across the island. And we'll see you next time.